Secretary. Let me begin with something I referenced in my opening remarks, and that's that workers deserve to be safe at work. I'm concerned because right now we still do not have a COVID-19 workplace safety standard, and to me that's just really unacceptable, especially because last year in a report by the Government Accountability Office on the federal response to the pandemic, GAO made clear that OSHA inspectors were facing challenges with COVID-19 cases without a specific standard. I have two questions for you, and let me start with the first. When will OSHA finalize a permanent COVID-19 standard for healthcare workers, and can you just give me a clear timeline here?
Sorry. I believe it'll be done in the next 3 to 6 months. We're going through the process now. I believe we're taking public comment, and we're moving through that final healthcare standard.
3 to 6 months from now?
Yes, yes. Because it's the rulemaking process, you know, the rulemaking process, and I mean, I'd love to speed it up, but unfortunately, it's a process that's in place that we have to work under.
Well, when will OSHA take the next steps on a permanent infectious disease standard, a process that was actually initiated more than a decade ago?
We're working on that as well right now, and I think that's in the same timeline. So OSHA made some priorities, and obviously we worked really hard on the rulemaking process that was struck down by the Supreme Court on vax or test situation, and then at the same time, that set us back a little bit on the infectious disease. Then we got back on track with this infectious disease. Now we're focused on that. And in my budget, we're looking for a little more money on some of the rulemaking processes because we have lots of issues that we cannot get to because we don't have, quite honestly, don't have the resources.
Okay, Mr. Secretary, funding in this budget, together with investments through the American Rescue Plan and the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, can really help us have an equitable recovery from the pandemic. But unfortunately, jobs that pay low wages and lack benefits have been, and actually continue to be, disproportionately filled by women, people of color, people living in poverty, people with disabilities. And the painful reality is our workforce development systems have long struggled to address these inequities and too often leave out those same workers. And when we leave some people behind, it actually holds us all back. So tell me what specific steps you are taking to ensure our workforce development programs, including the Registered Apprenticeship Program, are supporting all of our workers, including women and people of color, so we can build a stronger economy.
Yeah, well, thank you for that. Let me just first say that one of the things, when we think about the infrastructure investments, the bipartisan infrastructure law, we're thinking about making sure that it's equitable investment across the board. When I look at the unemployment numbers in America, 3.6% unemployment rate right now in America. In the white community, it's 3.4%. In the black community, it's 6.2%. Historically, the black unemployment number has always been historically double that of white, the white number all across the country. So when we think about making these investments, when we think about these investments, and we don't have, the Department of Labor isn't responsible for making a lot of investments in the infrastructure bill, because most of that is in transportation and in commerce and in energy. But what we've done is we've created, the Good Jobs Initiative is an umbrella of making sure that as we make these investments, we're making these investments to communities, so we're not leaving people behind. We're not leaving opportunities for women. We're not leaving opportunities for people of color. We're not leaving opportunities for Native American, Alaskan, Indian, all of the different communities in our community, quite honestly, that have been underrepresented for so long. So that's one of the ways that we're looking through the Good Jobs Initiative to make sure that this is an equitable investment in people's future. We also, quite honestly, in the workforce development programs and grants, we're looking at expanding apprenticeships and registered apprenticeship programs. We're looking at doing more pre-apprenticeship programs to really create a pathway into different industries. When you take the issue of nursing, we are headed towards a crisis in nursing in America in the next 5 to 10 years if we don't address it today. We have 60,000 people, young people, on waiting lists to get into nursing programs in the country, and we have a shortage coming. So when you look at that, we have certainly an ability to create a talent pool to go into nursing. What we want to do is make sure we're making the right investments to make sure to see what the shortfalls are in those different industries. We did it with the trucking challenge. We had an issue at the ports with a lack of truck drivers. We sat down at the White House, myself, Secretary Buttigieg. We created a program, an apprenticeship program, where any company in America could sign up with the Department of Labor for an apprenticeship, and within 48 hours, we would turn that around and get that program running. We had over 100 companies right now in America that are currently having apprenticeships in trucking in America. We are working about building the future. We're looking at the numbers and the ages of truck drivers in America. Do they need to be 21 to 25? It's okay.
Well, hold on just a minute. We apparently have a...
This is the exact same tape we heard earlier.
Yeah.
Like asking, why is this coming over the feed?
We apparently have a radio coming over the feed. I don't know. Control the feed.
Everyone who was injured or hurt was in the 9th grade, me including. A lot of people either don't know about or forget about every day it feels like shootings happening here, happened yesterday, or will happen tomorrow. People affected by everything going on have to walk by the street corner where their best friend, their brother, their mother, their nephew, or they themselves were shot. That trauma, once inflicted, doesn't leave. Sometimes when I'm like,
Two locations.
We're- some kind of weird radio thing going in the committee room, so we're just a second. I'm just told, I'm in class, we're still voting. Did it stop? Okay. Mr. Secretary, I believe the outside feed has stopped. We will continue with our hearing. You were talking about specific worker training skills, and I'll just take a few seconds and just ask. Worker training is critically important, but I'm also concerned about those support services that allow somebody to go to work.
Yeah.
I'm talking about childcare, transportation, those kinds of barriers. Can you just address that really quickly, how the department's
real quick. I mean, I think in the childcare space and in the, that's one of the biggest challenges we have as a country. And when you think about, yesterday I had testified in front of Ed and Labor, and childcare was a big part of the conversation. And quite honestly, you know, I think as a country we have to look and see and realign what we do with childcare. The pandemic has been devastating to childcare industries. In the very beginning days of the pandemic, March of 2020, we saw many childcare facilities have to shut down because the kids weren't going there and there was no revenue coming in. A lot of those agencies didn't recover. They had workers, particularly women of color, working in those areas that were making minimum wage and very low wages. Those workers left there, found other options for employment because they had to. And now as we think about the childcare industry, rebuilding it, we have to really be really intentional about it. And I feel that when we talk about childcare, you know, it has to be an all-of-government approach, meaning the federal, the state, the local, but also the private sector. We really have to think about outside the box when it comes to childcare. And also universal pre-kindergarten is an opportunity for us as well to think about an additional childcare. So as we think about this, our office, the Women's Bureau is working very intently on this, and also through the Good Jobs Initiative, we're looking at different ways of supporting communities across America.
Thank you very much. Senator Blunt.